So that's without all of those, and that's with all of those. Without and with. Imagine this scenario. You've made your perfect song, and then a friend of yours says, "Let me put some real drums on it for you." And you go, "Great, sounds like a fantastic idea." And they put some mics around their kit, and they send you through what they've done, and you think, "I can't wait to open it." And then you're confronted by a stereo file that just sounds pretty bad. And you ring them up and say, "Can I have the multi-track, because I want to work on it?" And they say, "I haven't got any multi-track, I just plugged the mics into my mixing desk and recorded the left and right out." And you think, "Oh no, what am I going to do?" Well, I've had that many times. Luckily that didn't happen with this song, but I have taken the multi-track, just kind of whacked the mics up, done very little EQ, and done what I consider a pretty bad mix of the drums. And I'm going to show you in this video how I would go about trying to rescue a stereo drum stem. And it might be some tricks you can do on a stereo drum bus, or if you're working with stems, if you're doing mastering, stem mastering or stem mixing, you're going to get something out of this. I'm also going to be covering a lot of middle and side stuff compared to just left and right processing, which is cool. So let's dive in. If you find it interesting, please like, subscribe, and leave me a comment if I make any mistakes or you like what I'm doing. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's have a listen through to these drums that I fictionally got from my friend Paul Bonney, who just gave me a left and right stem stereo file, and it doesn't sound great, so let's have a listen. Pretty standard stuff, you know, it doesn't sound too bad, but it's certainly not exciting. Let's have a listen with the track. We make sacrifices every day so you're not suffering. Okay, so I'm going to start with some EQ on this. Let's see what we can do with a bit of EQ. There are two EQs that I'd probably use for this. The first one that I use a lot for mastering is the T-Racks 5 linear phase EQ, which is absolutely wonderful. And it's got the option for left and right and middle and side. Now, if you don't know what middle and side is, don't worry, I'm going to tell you now. In a stereo file, there's stuff that is the same in both sides. So, for example, the bass drum or the snare drum in this case, probably panned in the centre. So they'll be the same in the left as to the right. But there will be things like the room mics, for example, and the toms, which are panned round, where the data won't be the same in the right as the left. And that's called the side data. And clever plugins like this, and you can also do it manually with some techniques, but for the sake of this video, we're just going to use the plugin. Clever plugins can separate out the middle data, the center stuff, like the bass drum and snare drum and whatever, and then the side stuff, which is like all the pan stuff and the cymbals. And that means you can do different EQ, different compression stuff. So I'm going to be using that a lot during this video to try and rescue this this stereo drum file. Now, I really like this EQ, but in this particular circumstance, I'm not going to use it because I can't find a way where you can actually solo just the middle and solo just the sides. If I'm doing something wrong, please let me know. I haven't extensively looked it up, but if you have this plugin, you can use this for it because it is fantastic. In this video, I'm going to use the Waves H EQ because it's great, and it also allows me to switch from the mode here from stereo to middle and side. But I can solo the middle and solo the side, so I can show you what I mean by that. So this is just the stereo file. Here's the middle. So just the middle, and here's just the sides. So by being able to separate out the two, I can do different EQ on both. So let's start with the middle. I'm going to do a high pass, a little bit higher than you'd think, and then I'm going to bring some of that low end back in using a low shelf. Sorry, wrong one. Right, I'm going to cut out some of the rumble. Maybe bring in some of the top end on that. So that's my middle side, my middle channel done. Now let's listen to the sides. I'm going to do much more of a high pass on this. Pull out some of this. Yeah, somewhere just below 2K is nice. A little bit of a treble boost on that. And both together. So this is with it out. And we'll put it in. Okay, it's a nice start. I'm now going to use a thing called an envelope shaper, which there's one built into Cubase. There's also Waves Trans-X, which is very good, but I actually quite like the one that's built into Cubase. So, and an envelope shaper basically brings up the transients, the initial sort of punch of, let's say, a bass drum, snare drum, tom, something like that. And at the moment, it's not doing anything, but we can. As I bring up this attack, we can increase the attack on the sound. So if I put it right up, you can see how ridiculous it is. Increase the length a bit. Now bring the attack down. That's without it in. Just a little bit. That's what it was. That's what it is now. I could choose to treat it like a gate by turning the release down, but I'm not going to do that. Let's have a listen with the track. We make sacrifices every day so you're not suffering. We make conversations every day, so we're not worrying. Get a grip on yourself, take a look at your head. Okay, so we're starting to get somewhere with that. Now let's introduce some compression. One of my favourite compressors for a drum bus is the T-Racks 76. Where is it? There it is, black 76. If I bring it onto the screen here. Now this is a great compressor. Let's just see what it sounds like, left and right. Won't do any middle side stuff. Quite a bit of attack time, bring down the release. Well, that really tightens it up. Let's get the gain level the same. See, by using a high-ish attack time and a quick release, the compressor doesn't kick in and bring down the level of the signal until sort of quite a bit of time after the hits happened, which kind of scoops out the sound in between the hits, which makes it much more punchy. And I like that sound. I mean, I think that could sound pretty nice if I listen in the track. We make sacrifices every day, so you're not suffering. We make conversations every day, so we're not worrying. Okay, so the problem I'm having here is in certain places, like when it's tight on the hi-hat, I'm getting really I'm pushing the compression a bit and it's sounding lovely. But then when the ride comes in, suddenly all that sort of space in the room is all being sucked out of the sound. And yeah, I don't like the sound of it. So I could stack compression. I could do various different bits and pieces to try and solve that. But let's try and do something really simple. I'm just going to use this middle and side thing, same as I did on the EQ. I'm going to use that button there. And we'll have a listen to the middle and the side and see if we can compress them differently to produce something that is close to what I'm looking for. So first thing I'm going to do is just turn down both sides. I mean, we haven't got a mute or a solo, but we can turn them off so there's no signal coming through. And then I can go to the middle and just turn up that. So you see, if I bring the attack time down, it really cuts off the slap and any of the punch. If I turn up the attack, you get that punch back. Bring the release right down. I'll bring up the envelope shaper a touch. Now let's turn that down to nothing, and now listen to the sides. I want to get that hitting the compressor quite hard. I'll only go for an 8:1 ratio. I'm going to get this to attack a lot quicker and release a lot slower. Even more. So I've really heavily compressed the sides, and more gently compressed the middle stuff. But the middle stuff's got a much higher attack time and a really fast release, and the sides got a lower attack time and a lot slower release. You see, that's mono. Now bring up the sides. Sacrifices every day so you're not suffering. Right, that's really starting to come on now. So now I'm going to introduce another stage of EQ after the compression. I'm going to go for the built-in 30-band EQ, not 31, which I always thought was a bit weird. The reason I'm using this is because it's a stock plugin. I've got obviously T-Racks waves, other bits and pieces, but for the purposes of this video, it's better to use stuff that's more common, I think. So, and it shows it can be done. Any graphic EQ you'll be able to do what I'm going to do now. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through each of these frequencies and basically just turn them up. And if they sound nice, I'll leave them up a bit. If it doesn't make much difference, I'm going to turn it back down to 0. And if it sounds horrible, I'm going to turn it down. It's as simple as that. It's quite nice. Horrible. Isn't that rude? See how that frequency there was a lot more offensive. When I got it up to even about here, that was sounding horrible. Whereas this one, I had to get it right up to the top before it was sounding horrible. And some of these didn't sound horrible at all. So I've pulled much more of this one out. We go back from here. Something resonant on the snare there. It's not too bad. I need some of that to give the snare some power. That gets rid of a lot of the ring on the snare, that one. Quite like a bit of that. That gives it some bit less of that. That's ringy and horrible. It's important to say, just because you turn it up and it whistles, it doesn't mean that it's not useful in the mix and it sounds horrible. It's just sometimes it's nice to just dip it a touch. So that one's clicking away, but it's really important. It's giving the snare some definition. Might even consider boosting that. That's not so nice. So this is without. And this is with. Now the great thing about the one in Cubase and a lot of other graphics is we can now feed it in, because generally when you're doing it as I've done there, I've gone way over the top and it kind of feels like it's lost some body and lost some realism. So we can take the range down to 0, so this is completely off now, and just slowly feed this EQ in. See, that's sounding nice to me, just around there. Maybe bring up. Yeah, that sounds cleaner. Now we've got this kind of more controlled compressor, even though it's doing quite a lot on the sides. I'd like to try something that just kind of really slams it overall. See what works with that. Now, I sometimes use a 2A, so let's have a look at the T-Racks 2A. Again, I'm using this one, not the Waves one, even though I really like the Waves one. I actually think what it does on drums is great, but it's because we've got the middle and side option. But let's just see what happens. I'll turn the gain down because I know it will gain it up a bit. See, I like the sound of this compressor because it just adds a bit of a fight to it. I'm going to take it out of limit mode on to compress. Now all the drums are fighting each other. In a way that with the 76 you can get that, but this just kind of gets it right straight out the box. And the Waves one does as well. And the Waves one actually adds a little bit more crack on snares and some more thud on the bass drum. But this has the middle and side option, so I'm going to go to that again. And let's turn the gain down for the, let's just listen to the sides first. Yeah, I like the way it's working that. This will be way too much probably in the mix with the music, but I can back it off. Alright, let's turn that down. Yeah, I like the way it's sustaining the... It's like we used the envelope shaper to make them slap a bit more, and now we're using this to reduce the slap, but we're hearing the ring in a much more controlled way. There's so much in sound is about putting it in here and then taking it back out there, but it's the journey it goes on during the process that gives it the character. I don't know if you can hear it and how well this would come through on the video, but there's a sweet spot where it's really sounding like it's not doing much at all, and then you just turn it a tiny bit more, and suddenly you can feel them all working and fighting each other, and I'm trying to find that sweet spot. Clearly it's not happening there. It's happening somewhere around here. Okay, that's nice. check the level. Let's bring the sides in. And now we're getting all the ring of the drums with this compressor. So the 76 was making it tight, and now this is bringing it back to being loose again, but in a controlled way, because we can adjust how much we want of that looseness. I'm going to go back to the I EQ'd, and on the middle stuff, I'm going to bring in the low pass bit. And then on the sides, we make sacrifices every day so you're not suffering. Sometimes the only way to do something is just turn the knob right up and see whether you're heading in the right direction. Conversations every day, so we're not worrying. Okay, so I've ended up in a place here with a little bit of compression on the middle and the side, not so much on the sides with this one because I pretty much slammed it with the 76. We make sacrifices every day so you're not suffering. Make conversations every day so we're not worrying. Brings the snare back a bit. Well, back in the mix, I mean, not back. Take a look at your health. I'll tell you, but I can't. 'Cause you shut me down. Shut me down. Yes, you shut me down. Right, so considering where we started with this, so that's what we got. Just a stereo file of drums, not sounding great. And with an EQ, an envelope shaper, a compressor, another graphic EQ, and then another compressor. Using mid-side techniques, we've done this. Now finally, I'm going to add some saturation. Now there's loads of good saturation plugins out there. In fact, I'm going to show you a few of them. So one that I really like is Saturator-X by T-Racks 5, IK Multimedia. So I tend to go for tape 2, which just adds in generally you want it, I want it around -5. Again, I'm going to put it into mid-side mode. And now it's saturating the middle and the side differently. I think that's a wonderful sound. One thing to do there would be to click on oversampling and take it up if you can afford the processing power, because oversampling allows the harmonic generation that happens to happen and then not hit what's called the Nyquist limit and create artificial harmonics in the lower regions that you don't want. I'm not going to go into that now, but just turn up oversampling as much as you can because it will sound better. So that's one saturation plugin that I absolutely love. Another one is the Kramer tape, which I really enjoy, by Waves. The IK Multimedia ones just take up so much processing power that I find them almost unusable in a mix. They do sound amazing, and on mastering they're fantastic. But the I'll try and show you one because I do think they sound really good. But I don't know. It's just really hard if you've got a lot of stuff going on. It's really hard to use them in a mix, particularly on a bus, which you generally, some sort of group or whatever, you're not going to be freezing those tracks. So yeah, I tend not to use them so much in a mix. But the Waves Kramer tape sounds absolutely fantastic. Let's have a look and see what it does on the drums. Turn the wail and flutter down. Take it down to 7.5. Bit much. Just a little bit of tickle of something. 15 inch per second speed. So if I turn that off, you hear the top end's very harsh. It just rounds stuff off nicely. We will have a look at one of my favourite ones for drums, but again, as I said, it's a very processor-intensive plugin. This one here, which is the Tape Machine 440, I love this on drums. So a couple of dB up there, a couple of dB down there. And sometimes I'll push the high EQ into the tape and bring it back down the other side a touch. So that's what it was. Just listen to the warmth that adds. Remember, this is what we started with. And this is where we're at now. And that's just playing with the stereo file. That's not with having the full multi-track. So, you know, that's the purpose of this video. So we're doing that. So I really like this one. And it is playing in this session. But I've known it really crash a session just because it takes up so much processing power. But if you can use it and you do have it, then try it out because it is fantastic. The last one I'm going to try on this is Magneto, or Magneto II, should I say, which is the built-in one to their kind of tape emulator saturation plugin built into Cubase. So let's have a listen to this. I don't know this so well, so let's have a look at their presets. Oh, drum group 1, straight away. That's without. There's a level difference. Subtle, but it's nice. That's high pass and low pass. Let's have a listen. Other presets. Oh, that's nice. So let's have a listen in the track. We'll keep using the Cubase one because it's more standard, more like something that you're going to have.
We make sacrifices every day so you're not suffering. We make conversations every day so we're not worrying. Get a grip on yourself, take a look at your health. I'll tell you but I can't, 'cause you shut me down. Shut me down.
Okay, I don't know how much of that I'm going to leave in, but I went right through those saturation plugins, and much as I was saying, I don't often use it because it's very processor intensive. In this case, because I'm only dealing with a stereo pair and I haven't got the full multi-track being processed, it's handling it nicely, and it just does sound the best. It sounds amazing, you know? That's in, and this is off. I mean, it's subtle. Okay, so I've just done some more adjustment there. I took out some 1K there on the middle, and I also upped the top end a little bit and cut out some 1.5K on the sides. Just there was something about the snare that was annoying me, but it seems to be working quite nice.
Make sacrifices every day so you're not suffering.
Okay, so in summary, where are we at? We started with a drum sound which sounded like this. We brought in an EQ with middle and side, so we were EQing the middle and the side differently, which made it sound like that. Brought in an envelope shaper to just add 1.3 dB of punch to the transients. Brought in the TR5 Black 76 in middle and side, where we've got the middle with a high attack time and a very short release time, and the sides with a lower attack time and a higher release time, and that's giving the centre some punch, and then sort of keeping the sides under control but always present. And then after that, I've got an EQ which just rounds out some horrible frequencies before I go into the T-Racks 5 White 2A in middle and side. Again, just kind of giving some sustain to the toms and the bass drum and the snare. It just kind of evens them out. It's very different character to the 76. There's not as much control, but again, I've got the middle and side on that. The middle is compressing quite a bit, but the side not so much, whereas on the 76 I was compressing the side a lot more than the middle. And then finally, I went through some saturation emulators, but then decided it was worth the processing power. The best sounding one is the T-Racks 5 Tape Machine 440. So that's without all of those, and that's with all of those. Without and with. So let's listen in the mix.
Sacrifices every day so you're not suffering. We make conversations every day so we're not worrying. Get a grip on yourself, take a look at your health. I'll tell you but I can't. 'Cause you shut me down, shut me down. Yes, you shut me down, shut me down. You only do it when there's no one else around. Why do you shut me down, shut me down? Try to make arrangements with you when you're in the mood.
And I think you'll agree from where we started, that is considerably better than it was. Now, obviously, you're going to get a lot better results if you have the multi-track and you can adjust all the things you want. And luckily on this song, I do have the multi-track, and I may well do a video mixing the drums on this session from the multi-track at some point. But even some of these techniques are things where you're mixing the multi-track and then you've got your drum bus, or maybe parallel compression buses or several buses depending on how you have your routing. And then sometimes it's all working, but it doesn't matter. You're turning the rooms up and they're too loud, but then you turn them down and you can't hear the rooms, and it's just, and you need the rooms to have presence. So you might put a compressor over the room mics to try and keep them present in the mix, but then it just becomes swampy. And because obviously 2 room mics, some of the information between them is going to be the same. It's going to be the stuff that's in the center. And the thing is with this file here, this stereo file that I bounced, is there's no compression and almost no EQ, nothing that you wouldn't achieve with, just a straight 3-band, bottom, mid, top sort of equalizer on each channel. I literally threw up the faders, turned a couple of them down, put a little bit of EQ, nothing major, and bounced it off. So it was really not a good mix at all. And it shows you that we spend so much time processing on individual channels of the multi-track of the drums to get this perfect sound, to bring it together in a group, and then do a bit of bus compression or whatever after it. But actually sometimes you lose some of the life by gating all the drums and processing everything as if they're individual instruments, each tom, each snare, and the bass drum is individual instruments, and then the room mics and the overheads as individual things, where if you could kind of chuck it all up together first and have a go with the bus. And then if you're struggling with something, go back to the multi-track and turn that up and down and EQ and tweak. Sometimes you can get a much more realistic result. Particularly if you're looking for a real open drum sound where you don't want to be gating things and you want to keep the room in there and make it sound like you're standing in the room with the drummer. So, I learned a lot from this process going over it before I did this video of really just trying to mix the drums without using too much EQ and without using too many plugins. And realistically, I think I could get away with almost no compression and a tiny bit of EQ on my multi-track, and then doing pretty much all the stuff that makes it really pump in the bus, you know, and get a really open drum sound, which is something that a lot of people desire, and I certainly do. So I hope that helps. I hope this video has given you some information. As I said at the beginning, please like and subscribe and leave me a comment, and I'll see you in another video. Thank you very much.